Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to the Ultimate Year, where I am covering Ultimate Marvel, the original one. And before the Ultimate Universe really took off those 20-something years ago, all that was really there were Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Spider-Man, and we both know which one of those was more popular. So popular, in fact, was Ultimate Spider-Man that merely 6 months into the series, Marvel began a whole new side project called Ultimate Marvel Team Up, and guess who was the main star? Ultimate Marvel Team Up was the birthing ground of just about every single Ultimate Marvel character, meaning that their designs really make no sense if or when they show up later in the Ultimate Marvel universe, examples being Iron Man and the Hulk. It is essentially a secondary Ultimate Spider-Man series that just ran concurrently with a kind of lesser story aspect of it, because it's pretty much just a hero or villain of the week premise. It's a basic concept. It was in the 70s when they first did it, and it was in the early 2000s when they did it again. But it's really fun and really well done, because every issue is written by Brian Michael Bendis, and the artists are just such a widespread picking of just anybody who was available. And it's just, you got Bill Sienkiewicz in one issue, you got somebody else in a different one. I don't know, I blanked. I have covered about an issue or two here in the past on the channel, so check those out if you're interested. And if you want to see me continue coverage of this series, make sure to like this video for more, and also comment down below on any of your favorite Ultimate Marvel team-up issues. But before we get started, I have to let you know that I will be attending Tucson Comic Con in Tucson, Arizona, August 30th to September 1st, 2024, at booth AA183. Stop on by, say hi, pick up my comics, The Custodians, Agents of Cross, issues 1 and 2, released in 2001, written by Brian Michael Bendis, with art by Matt Wagner. This is Ultimate Team Up, Spider-Man and Wolverine. And in a way to sustain synergy, that buzzword that it is, Ultimate Marvel, I should say, Team Up #1, released the exact same month as Ultimate X-Men #1. So this is the very first ever interaction between Ultimate Wolverine and Ultimate Spider-Man. The book itself opens up in a New York subway station as Logan stands at the platform listening to a couple argue over whether or not the term mutie is a racist slur and how mutants don't deserve any rights. What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments below. When he catches a scent in the air. God almighty, that really just shows how powerful his senses are if he's able to pick out Sabretooth in a New York City subway station. Logan swivels around and... What is this? Why is that the Sabretooth go-to? I mean, it's essentially what Sabretooth is going to look like in Ultimate X-Men, but for some reason, they decided to go with this blue tattoo war paint over his face and arms? Did he just get these tattoos and his healing factor hasn't, like, undone it yet? Is that a thing? Can Wolverine get a tattoo? I don't think he can. It doesn't... Wouldn't it just, like, erase itself? Has that ever happened before? Also, there's just something about Sabretooth's stance and face in this panel that is just so non-menacing. Logan snicks his claws and drives them straight through Sabretooth's chest. The two Weapon X agents are quickly dealt with, and Logan makes a break for the train and escapes just as it takes off. Sabretooth watches the train leave the station, removes his fur coat, and waits for himself to heal before he breaks out into a sprint down the tracks. And meanwhile, Spider-Man swings over the metropolis of NYC, the sun setting beautifully behind him. He winds up in Times Square, worrying if the people who were taunting him earlier about being a mutant might be right. After all, how's he gonna know if he's a mutant or not? He does have superpowers, and mutants have weird abilities. For all he knows, he's a mutant? And that's just something that's like really bothering him at this point. So it's fairly early on in Ultimate Spider-Man's career if he's still worried about the fact that he's a mutant. Anyway, he lands and spots a strange scene occurring on a rooftop. Spidey watches in confusion as Sabretooth informs Logan that his orders are to return him alive or in shrink-wrapped pieces. They each step forward, circle each other like animals, and then Spidey's senses go off. The Weapon X agents open fire as Logan tackles Sabretooth off the roof, and he drives Sabretooth into a nut cart? You know, one of those famous New York City nut carts? Anyway, he prepares to use his claws on Victor when Sabretooth leaps back to his feet and the two have a violent, bloody duel in front of hundreds of people. As Victor is about to kill Logan, his hand is whipped by a web. Spidey swings down and smacks him in his giant jaw, flips around, saves a little girl from harm's way, and returns her to her mother as Logan goes after Victor. Then he tosses him into an electronics store as police and Weapon X agents rock up. What happens if they're caught? Right? Like, they're foreign agents. They're Canadian military on U.S. soil. I'd imagine they probably have, like, some fake credentials or something, or maybe they just buy them off, or probably more likely kill them. Anyway, the crowd quickly turns on Spider-Man for some reason. Everybody starts tossing stuff at him, except for this one guy in the crowd who tries to stop him and shouts that they all just watched Spider-Man save a little girl. The other half of the crowd, meanwhile, goes after Logan and Victor. Then the Weapon X agents arrive, but Spidey steals their guns before they can use them, but the police can use theirs! Spidey grabs Logan and the two quickly escape the police gunfire. They land on a rooftop near that big, famous church that will later appear in the Ultimates, as Spidey tells him that they need to go to the hospital. Logan tells him to just give him a second, and then Spidey watches in horror as Logan's body repairs itself. Spidey begins chattering and asks Logan all kinds of questions. Logan tells him to just go home and do his homework or something because he can smell his youth. And Spidey says that he wants to help him. Logan asks how the kid even knows that he's a good guy in all of this and then just takes off. And Spidey asks some more questions and brings up how he's worried that he is also a mutant. And Wolverine asks if he knows how he got his powers. Spidey says he does. And Logan tells him that that means he isn't a mutant. And then he tells Spider-Man that the costume, it works for him, which is kind of like a backhanded compliment, I guess. And then Logan leaps off of the roof, and Peter leans over the ledge, watches him land and run off into the city, and says, "Cool." The next day, Peter Parker has outfitted himself into a whole new look, with rugged outfits and winged hair. Flash and Kong laugh and make fun of him, and Peter turns around and says, "Hey, put a cork in it, bub." Then he marches off, sits down to eat, and is immediately pummeled by Flash and Kong's food. The end. Hope you enjoyed this episode of What Is. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. What are your thoughts of Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Wolverine's first ever meeting? It's definitely better than a later encounter they'll have. But it's not their last before they get their minds swapped by Jean Grey. There's a later back and forth between them when they're at a mall and the X-Men are there. It's after Logan joins the X-Men, which brings the question, something I was just trying to figure out, because I don't think I've actually ever read this issue of Ultimate Team Up before. I just never bothered. Like, when does this take place? It's seemingly before Wolverine joins the X-Men, because there's a whole scene that I just didn't bring up because it raised too many questions, but here I am anyway, where he is in the middle of Times Square and he's speaking to someone over a payphone, and he doesn't bring up the X-Men, but he does reference Magneto, but he is also, this person knows about the Weapon X stuff and Sabretooth. I've tried looking it up. No one has ever revealed or discussed who the person on the phone was supposed to be. I doubt even Brian Michael Bendis knows who it was supposed to be. If I ever get the chance to ask him, I will, and he'll probably say, "I don't fucking remember. That was 20-something years ago, man." It seems reasonable to me that this is sometime between when Logan leaves the Savage Land on his mission to assassinate Professor X, and probably like a couple of weeks maybe before he joins the X-Men in Ultimate X-Men Volume 1, because I guess that's the only thing that makes sense, really, because why else would he be in New York around this time? This is also the same time that Ultimate X-Men starts up, so there's that, which of course is like a meta-knowledge thing, I suppose. But I think that just kind of makes sense in a chronological view of this, is that it's fairly early on, and it's right before he teams up with the X-Men and starts banging Jean Grey. Matt Wagner's art is wonderful. Although he has never really been a favorite of mine, I don't get Grendel. I just don't get it. Although I did enjoy his work in this, but it does seem like he was in a crunch, because as the book goes on, it does get a little more simplified, and it just does look rushed nearing the end of the issue. So I think he was running out of time on his deadline for this. I really enjoyed the colors by Young Choi, who colored nearly all of the Ultimate Marvel comics, I learned, because I wanted to know who it was that did the colors, and this guy did a lot for Ultimate Marvel, and then just like nothing. I can't find anything else about him, but it's very well done. I really enjoy how poppy it is. The Sabretooth design is just so odd. Like, they really had something going there with the fur coat and the paramilitary getup, but did they give him these tattoos, which I suppose could work if they weren't a cerulean blue? Like, why? What is all that about? Why the tattoos? It's just such, like, an early, edgy, gritty, modern-day idea of what to do with Sabretooth. Like, it doesn't even, like, match his original outfit. Like, maybe if that's what they were trying to do, where it's like, oh, it looks like his original costume from the main universe, but it's just tattoos. Maybe that could have worked, and maybe it could have stayed, but no. When Mark Miller brings him over into Ultimate X-Men, he and the artist, who is Andum, one of the Cuberts, they're like, get the fuck out of here, Sabretooth with tattoos. This is a very fun comic. It's a great series, like I said at the top. It's not a really necessary read for Ultimate Spider-Man or Ultimate Wolverine or any of the other characters that appear in this series, unless it's like Doctor Strange, and his only other fucking appearance is that those 2 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, kind of, and the scene where he fucking brutally dies in Ultimatum. Then I guess it's a necessary read. But it's this little ancillary series is a nice inclusion if you're a completionist for the Ultimate Universe for Ultimate Spider-Man. And again, if you are going to be in Tucson, Arizona, August 30th to September 1st, stop by booth AA183 to say hi, pick up some books, pick up some posters, pick up some stickers, pick up some buttons, pick up some business cards. Fuck me, I really lost it there for a second. Come say hi. I'll be there all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the entire show. I will be sat there at my desk, unless it gets really slow. Then I might walk around and buy some comics. If you see me at the show just wandering around in my own headspace, feel free to run up and tap me on the shoulder and say you hate my opinions on Batman Hush. Check out my Etsy again, etsy.com, or blaketwild.etsy.com, where after the convention I will be uploading for purchase the Custodians issues 1 and 2. If you want to read them digitally, I have high quality PDFs of both issues of the Custodians that are currently released on my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, where I also upload early videos when available. I'm doing movie commentary stuff on there. What else do? I can't even remember. Follow me on Instagram at NotBlakeWild. Check out my podcast, the Comic Shtick Podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts except for Apple. And I will see you next time. Bye.